Welcome to the Disruptive podcast by Minority Innovation Weekend. Minority Innovation Weekend is a weekend summit dedicated to aiding innovators of color launch tech-focused startups, exploring emerging technologies and showcasing tech startups that have a founder or co-founder of color. During each episode, we will discuss innovation, tech startups, and more. Minority Innovation Weekend. One weekend, endless opportunities. Please visit www.minorityinnovationweekend.org to find out how to connect with us and to register for upcoming events.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. I hope this is going to be a very informative session for everybody who is onlooking. My name is Angel Christopher. I am a co-founder of Blex Consulting Group. We're a startup that has just launched this year, focusing on kind of intermediary between business and technology. Prior to founding my startup, I was a principal at Cotter Consulting. Most people will know John Cotter through his books, Our Iceberg is Melting, or Change, one of Harvard's kind of most prolific professors. And before that, I was a consultant with Accenture in their financial services line of business, doing kind of integrations between technology and the business. So great to meet you all, and I guess I'll pass it to the next panelist to do an introduction.
Jim, please introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Gibbs. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Meter Feeder. Cities have been losing billions of dollars trying to price the curb for shared vehicles like FedEx, UPS, folks like that. We made a way for traditional and autonomous vehicles to pay for parking with no human interaction, so cities can make money and I can stop getting parking tickets. I've been writing software since the early 80s. I've built everything from USA Today from the ground up, domain name registrars, medical software. And the last thing that I built was a platform that handles about 30% of all the mobile retail sales in the US. And yeah. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Prasanth, can you please introduce yourself? And please correct me if I say your name wrong.
Yeah, it's Prasanna. Excuse me. Happy to be here. I'm currently the co-founder of a stealth startup, which is into SaaS research and SaaS procurement. And prior to this, I was a product manager at Airbnb, where I was leading the web team and the native platform team. Prior to that, I was at Oracle Cloud, where I was the PM who launched IPv6 and a lot of other networking features. Before that, I was an in-house entrepreneur at a company called Riverbed, where I was proposing for my own product, and Cisco. So a lot of enterprise background. Other than this, I've been angel investing from some time. I've done more than 20 plus angel investment. I write articles on that. I co-founded one more startup back in 2016. So I've been plugged into both startups and enterprise system from quite some time. Thank you.
Excellent. And Bobby, please, and excuse me if I say your name wrong. Bobby, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bobby Srivastav. I'm a co-founder and chief product officer of Benikiva. And Benikiva is a software as a service organization helping insurance carriers in the life, annuity, and health side of the house with claims and servicing transformation. We've launched Benikiva since 2018. Prior to Benikiva, I've had numerous other startups where I've co-founded. Prior to my startup world, I was working at organizations such as PepsiCo, United Guarantee, Aon Consulting, where I've led large-scale enterprise-level initiatives. I pretty much have played every role in the software development lifecycle. Started my career as a software developer, moved into managing teams, and then managing large-scale implementations. And really happy to be here.
Excellent. So before we begin with the conversation, I would first want to encourage everyone to use the hashtag. Use the hashtag MIW21. That's hashtag MIW21. Please, if you're anything brilliant, want to take a snapshot or do anything else to celebrate Minority Innovation Weekend, please use the hashtag. Also, we're going to try to get to some questions within the conversation. So if you have anything that you'd like to ask the panelists or myself, please feel free to put it inside the chat feature so we try to get to you. Now, if my panelists are ready to begin, the first question I want to ask is, in your opinion, what do you feel like are the biggest challenges for co-founders, founders of color when launching a tech startup? Jim, go ahead. Well, I see you smiling over there.
Oh, man. Okay, so I guess we're just jumping right into it, huh?
Full force.
Yeah, so the hardest thing by far is people believe in us, right? So it's really difficult, when I first meet someone, probably the first half hour is proving to them that I'm not crazy. So when we start talking about doing, pitches or anything like that, like even people that I've made money for, I've made millions of dollars for people, and they'll still ask me things like, well, where are you going to find the tech talent in order to scale? It's really bizarre that these mindsets continue to perpetuate, especially when you can literally just take a look at our resumes. But it's really just starting with the ability to believe that we can bring things to fruition.
Thank you, then. Angel, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, I'll definitely jump in and piggyback a bit on that. I think for me, the biggest issue was kind of access to the hard tech resources, right? And so coming from Accenture, I worked on the Microsoft Teams rollout, which of course has been very highly successful rollout. And I was happy to be there, right? But you see their innovation hubs, and it's wonderful to see all of the AI that they're developing, right? And all of these, their TV studios and all of these innovation centers. And you kind of wonder if the average person had access to these similar types of hubs to do their own independent work, what would come to fruition from that? And so I think it's kind of a lack of resources. And so it comes to be this kind of talent drain in the entrepreneurship hub, because whether you have the talent or not, to get the resources and the tangible products where you can build these things, they're in large companies, right? When you want to do an enterprise application, right? I mean, with Microsoft Teams, this was a 120 country rollout. The test was on 500,000 users, right? And so how would a person like us who has innovation ideas that can really help society, how would we be able to access those things? And this is why I think funding and getting those backing, that financial backing is important, because we need access to the tools, these enterprise tools, to really grow at scale. And until we're able to grow at scale, it'll stymie people of color a little bit as they start to innovate and build tech businesses.
Thank you. Bobby, please, if you can chime in.
Funding. There's so many stories that I faced when I was launching my first business, when it came to funding, when it came to finding funding resources that were available for like people of color or minority. It just when you're in an ecosystem where people may not look like you, it's very hard to, when you're trying to get that raise or try to build that business or even ask for a raise, to take what Jim said, take us seriously. Jim, I think earlier in the conversation with Jim, Angel, and Prasanna, I jumped in when we were talking about this exact topic. It's why is it so difficult for us to raise money? But it is very difficult for people to write that check because they want to make sure that I feel like we have to have a checklist that people need to say check before they even give us the initial investment. And that initial investment is not enough. Oftentimes the same pitch, same idea, and I'm not going to bash on my white colleagues here, but a white colleague would do, they would get a 10 times more than what we're getting. This past week, I spoke to a minority founder, and she is literally building an amazing product, and her ask is $50K to do product development on a garment product. And I'm like, that's not enough. But her thing is, I need at least something to give me 2 months out. And I'm like, people are thinking 1 to 18 months down the line when it comes to runway. And she's only thinking 2 months because that's what her mentors are telling her. That's what her community is telling her. We've got to stop having this double lens when it comes to minority founders and funding. Why can one group of people, innovators, get less money than another group when it's a similar idea and both parties can execute, if not better execution? I get passionate about this.
No, we love to hear the passion, please. We definitely want to feel all of it. Prasanna, I don't think you got the chance to chime in.
Sure. So for me, when I started off back in 2016, one of the biggest challenges I faced was having the right set of network. Because what I've seen is without the right set of network, it's very difficult to get VC introduction, customer introduction. So I have been trying to get into communities, but it is very difficult to get into communities which are already they're like clans where there are a bunch of folks and they always have their friends coming in, their investor buddies coming in. They only provide referrals to their friends, and it's very difficult. So this is what I have been seeing. Luckily, from past 2-3 years, I've been able to join some communities which are just founder communities, which there is no differentiation on basis of what type of race we are from. So that has been really helpful. And I agree with what Bobby was telling. It's not just about the funding amount, but it is also about the valuation of the company. For right now, if I am pitching my company and I am putting the valuation at 10 million and investors maybe like 10 million valuation is too much. But if the same thing was happening from someone else with the same idea, same number of customers, same traction, and they put a valuation of 15 to 20 million, that would still fly off. So it is not just the amount which is given, it's also the amount which they are ready to put in at a particular valuation. So there are a lot of these nuances which the privileged folks may not realize, but coming from the other end, I definitely feel it.
Excellent. Thank you for your insight. You guys to move everything right along. According to a Crunchbase Diversity report, only in 2020, only 2.6 venture funding went to founders of color. Do you feel as though this has improved in 2021? Oh, please, anyone jump in. I'm sorry.
I guess I have the short and sweet answer, so maybe I'll kick it off. For me, it might be regionally. I'm in the New York City area. And so within the New York City area, I've definitely met a lot of people of color, Black VCs that are starting to really push these innovations and these capital funds. Do I think that it's equal all over the country? Absolutely not. I left Chicago. A New Yorker. I worked in Tyson's Corner. I've worked in DC. I've worked in Chicago, and I came back to New York for a reason. And I don't think I would have launched my particular startup if I wasn't in New York City. So I would say yes, but caveating it with, I live in a very highly diverse, highly immigrant-driven city that is generally more progressive in that nature.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Jim, please chime in.
Yeah, I agree. And I also, when I was doing the USA Today stuff, I was always at Gannett. So I was in Tyson's Corner too. I know what you mean. I lived in New York for 20 years. I know what you mean. So the funny thing is, it's like, it's hard for us to say that we're going to be able to do better in 2021 because as soon as everything happened with George Floyd, people were just like, oh, we need to dump all this money out on the Black people. And everyone was just like, hey, I'm making a fund for Black people. But then all of a sudden, it's like, if a lot of people don't seem to understand, like they don't know what GPs are or LPs are, right? So it's like, these people would announce their funds, their $50 million fund, but have $0 in dry powder. So it's like they can't do any investment. So I feel like the money is starting to trickle into these diversity-based funds, but they're just not there yet. So the investment, it's harder for the investment to actually make it into the hands of the entrepreneurs if it's just not there in the hands of the GPs yet.
Thank you, Jim. Bobby, if you can,
I can jump.
please chime in.
Yeah, I think what happened in 2020 was, I think, a wake-up call. And what's great about it, at least in the insurance lens and the fintech lens that I've seen, is more focus on creating programs and creating programs with funding. To Jim's point, I think that is a trend that we need to see it out. It can't be a fad. It can't be 2021, 2022, and then all of a sudden we're back to ground zero, in a couple of years. It's that needs to propel. But I have seen, the great part is I have seen a lot of, especially on the female founding side, there was one of my friends in InsurTech raised the highest raise that a female founder has done as a seed series, or I think it's a Series A, of 21 million, which is very unheard of when you're thinking about like female-led companies. So we're seeing a move in the needle, but I think I'm optimistic. So at least I'm seeing like what Northwestern Mutual is doing with Black founders, with having an accelerator, giving an opportunity, with what I'm seeing in the investment side being poured into. Baylor Ventures is someone that I look up to in Atlanta, that's doing a heavy focus on minority-owned businesses with Startup Runway and funding those companies. It's slowly coming out, so that's good news. We just need more power. But at least we're seeing some success stories.
I'm glad to join you all as well.
Thank you.
Couldn't agree.
Let me introduce my guest. I just popped in. Michael, please. First of all, introduce yourself. Give us a brief explanation of who you are. And the question I would like to answer is, what impact, what has 2021 seen improvement in terms of venture funding to minority startups?
Absolutely. So I'm super glad to introduce myself, Michael Oguzanya, CEO and co-founder of Mindstand Technologies. So a couple months ago, Minority Innovation Weekend had a pitch competition, and I'm glad to be able to participate through Mindstand, and we won the Fearless Award for $10,000. And everything you've echoed around what it looks like. Just to give a quick synopsis, Mindstand, our goal is to develop AI, specifically machine learning algorithms, focused on identifying bias, identifying positivity within corporate communications. So there couldn't be more of a mantle, more of a stake I'm choosing to take in ensuring that organizations not only understand the ROI of successful businesses, but understands the ROI of equitable technology. So absolutely, before CEOs and GPs and LPs saw 8 minutes of horrifying video, this concept was a different language to them. When I explained, you can get sued if you continually address a person of color in a certain way. There's certain repercussions when you fail to invest in environments that foster diversity and inclusion. So the thing I've seen is, and you've mentioned this, these companies realized even if we could create a $10 million fund and us as usually white men try and invest in those diverse founders, we're not going to choose the right companies. We're not going to understand the right problem or the subset. So this rise of not only underrepresented fund managers, but university initiatives where you're seeing donors, you're seeing state-led legislature saying we need to allocate money for people who don't usually have a seat at the table to create that capital, create that advantage for entrepreneurs. And it's been exciting.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me now? Hear me more properly? All right. Well, first of all, everyone's so sorry for the difficulties, but we're going to continue the conversation. If you hear me, please hashtag MIW21. If you hear anything brilliant, MIW21. We definitely want to spread the word about this great event. Now, to move on to the next question. What is the most important thing that you think? I'm sorry, let me direct this question. And Bobby, let me put this on you first. What is the most important thing tech startup founders of color should know before they launch a tech startup?
I think we have to make sure that every customer validation that we've done, the research, our MVP is buttoned up, fully researched before we go to market or start to raise money or even go into the marketplace. I think it's we have to just be extra planful, we have to do extra hustle. So that's what I would tell a startup, a minority founded startup is people are gonna look at us in a different lens. So have your research down. They're gonna ask us questions. They're gonna say you're not in the right space. If you have research and if you can back that up and if you have proof, then you're a thought leader. You're a leader in the space. Nobody's going to doubt that, but we have to come very, very prepared when we're launching our companies.
Absolutely, and that's something I saw over and over again. Founders with a back of the napkin idea and kind of early business plan have raised tens of millions of dollars. But when you come with research and show here's where we're going, questions around traction, questions around founder market fit always seem to plague underrepresented founders. So echoing that point, the unique advantage we have is exactly as you mentioned, thought leadership. We have the ability to engage customers, engage people in our network, and talk about our research and have people trust in us. Being able to show that you are a thought leader and you have people in your corner, especially when you're showing how you're going to scale your business, always reflects that level of realness. It's almost the question you hear is, why you? That's the question you, as a founder, you know why, but you never anticipate people to ask that question from you, especially if it's the difference between a 6-7 figure check. So always showing through your day-to-day why you're the right person for this. That's, Bobby, you hit the nail on the head.
Jim, I'll let you go.
Okay. So one of the things that I always try to stress with people who are starting their ventures, right, is that, number one, venture capital isn't venture, because venture is like dangerously wading into the unknown. And they try, the venture capitalists, they try to do the safest bet possible, which is crazy because that's how they end up in Quibi and Theranos and Juicero and all folks like that. But yeah, I mean, if you can do the basics, right? Like put your MVP together relatively quickly and say, look how far we've come, right? If you say, hey, we went sign our first couple of contracts, right? It's like over the past month. Okay, great. That's great information. We started getting revenue and our revenue is growing 10% week over week, right? Those are things that cannot be, like, you can't dispute that. So my thing is, even if you're talking to the folks that are going to doubt you, right? And it's like, I look at Angel like you're like the center of the Venn diagram that says, hey, oppress me, right? So so when people are looking at you and you're just like, look at all these wonderful things that I'm doing, you are going to find the right person. And us as other entrepreneurs, we need to be telling you that you need to be confident and you need to go out there and be like, I'm worth something, right? So you might want to throw $50 million at that guy. It's like, I'll take 10, right? And I'll grow it significantly more than that other person, right? Look at what I'm doing. So it's so growth and confidence are the two things that we absolutely need when starting a new venture.
So I guess I'm sorry. Go ahead, Clayton.
No. I apologize for all these technical difficulties, everyone. Did everyone get a chance to answer the question?
I can throw in a last thing, and I don't know if Prasanna is able to hop back in or rotate in or not.
Yes.
So I guess in regards to, Jim saying, you need to have the confidence. Trust me, no one has to tell me that. I think for me, it's about operating in a very different type of lens. And I think this comes from me being very multicultural, right? So I'm from Guyana, which is the only English-speaking country in South America. Culturally, we're Caribbean. But we're non-Hispanic South Americans. There are only 3 countries in South America that are non-Hispanic. And we're a Black country. We're Black and Indian. So culturally, we're Caribbean. If I spoke with my home accent, I would sound like Rihanna or something like that to you. And growing up, where I saw a Hindu temple next to a Muslim mosque, next to a Christian church, when I immigrated to America, I didn't have kind of these preconceived notions of how we interact with white people. And so for me, I see a lot of people bumping their heads trying to get in to a locked door, right? That's not your people. Go to the UAE, go to, Africa, go to the UK, go to Canada, go to the Caribbean. And so oftentimes it comes with, for me, this kind of thought shift in our own selves and how we interact, where are we posing ourselves as a beggar who is coming to ask somebody to help them, right? Oftentimes, I don't know, it might be controversial, but I look at the movie Hidden Colors, and it's so widely celebrated. And I just think, my gosh, I'm so glad that I wasn't the woman there. We would have never gotten to the moon had you treated me like that. We'd have been living in caves. Because I feel that our intellectual property is the one thing we can control. And we've been selling it far too cheap in Western countries that have been devaluing us while we acknowledge it. And so a big shift for me is looking at firms and capitalist funds and innovators outside of the US. And it's not such a big jump when you go to other people who have interest. I mean, China is doing a lot of funding, as well. And so I think it's a lot of us getting out of the mindset that everything we have has to come through this kind of European-centric view in America, and realizing, the reason why we're here as innovators and as co-founders and creators and CEOs is because it has not worked out that well, right? All of these people that they have said have led to all of these great things. It's like, once you get into the industry, all of us have realized there is a lot of failure behind the scenes, but what the end user sees is only the small successes that they choose to enumerate. So I would say for founders of color, the biggest thing is finding where you fit. And it might not be the traditional ways that you've thought of it or seen it exampled. Be uncomfortable, go to another country, go to another culture, and you're received in a much different way.
And I'd love to let Prasanna jump on. I'd just love to share this story all in that light. Mindstand, we've been so focused on pitch competitions. Anyone here looking to start a tech company, not only is it being able to present your idea, the MVP, the intangibles, but also being put yourself in a position of uncomfort to be able to share this idea. So I remember this was about 2 years ago, to let you know, exactly to your point, Angel, it's about the consistency, Jim. It's about the consistency. I was invited to an event in Menlo Park, California for Facebook. I overbooked my stay for 3 days. And those entire 3 days, from Mission District to Palo Alto, I pitched at every possible event there, thinking that, maybe it's the check. Can I leave this area getting, a tangible yes? It wasn't until the last day where I pitched amongst 30 other startups. I knew I killed the pitch. I worked on this. It was amazing. And I saw an investor that was there, knowing he said he wants to invest in companies there. I approached him, spoke to him about my idea after the event. He had some questions on the feasibility of the technology, and I explained it well to him. The last thing he said is, well, I just don't think you can do it, and walked away. I could have quit in that very moment. I could have thought, this older white man who has the money, who has the experience in investing, told me that my idea or what I'm trying to do wasn't good enough in 2019. But it's all about resilience. It's about consistency and creating that message, knowing that it's going to fall on the right person. And they're going to look at the years you've spent failing or succeeding and seeing that this is the right person to work with. So as long as you keep pushing, you'll find your tribe.
Yeah, definitely, Michael. And to add to that and what Jim was mentioning, I would definitely say the most important thing is having some customers, whether they are ready to sign a POC, whether they are actually signing in, or they're to even write a letter of intent that they will be willing to pay. That, according to me, is the most crucial thing for anyone jumping into startup, because then it's just a proof point wherein you can say, I already have customers who are ready to use the product, or I already have the traction where the customers are there. And that gives you the power to also say that, hey, I'm going to talk to some other VCs down the line today and tomorrow. Let me know if you're in or not, because I have traction already. I have customers already waiting to pay money. So it gives you back the power. So having customers would be the most important thing which you should concentrate on, whether it's paid customer, trial customer, POCs. You can split it. You can say, you can have things telling that I have 2 paid customers, 5 in trial who will soon become paid customers, and I have 15 more in pipeline. And I have call with the next VC in the 5 minutes. So let me know if you're interested or I'm hopping off. So having customers will give you power and confidence and everything else, because you won't care about this VC. You'll just move to the next VC because you know you have customers. So that's the most important about it to me.
One more comment before I know Clayton wants to ask another question. I think when we've gone through this journey a few times, going back to what Angel's point is very resonating. We don't need to beg. When we see other founders that are in that begging status, like, give them that, stop them, give them the confidence to say, hey, you're worth more than this. You need to be confident. Don't go after that $50,000 check. You need to ask for $1 million. And you need to show why. Can't just settle for 1 to 2 months. I think that's where the advice that we can give from our journey, from our, going through the same process, can really help the next generation of startups.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bobby. So I will help push us forward to our next set of questions. Clayton has joined us. Clayton, are you want to jump back in, or you want me to keep rolling?
Yes, I just want to make sure everyone can hear me properly. I apologize once again. Also, everyone, please, if you hear anything from our amazing panelists, please use the hashtag MIW21. We definitely want to see the reaction of everyone to receive on social media. So my next question I want to ask the panelists is, launching a tech startup can be tough. What do you suggest for tech startup founders and co-founders in regards of self-care?
Oh, I realized.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I guess Jim bowed out, so I'll jump in the saddle. So just to kind of repeat the question and make sure that I've heard it right, is just kind of that launching a tech startup can be very difficult. So you want kind of some suggestions on what founders and co-founders can do in regards to self-care, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to give some of my tips. I recommend that everyone else, if you have any tips and you're watching this, make sure you use the hashtag MIW21. Again, MIW21 hashtag, and let us know what your self-care tips are. For me personally, my self-care tips are I wake up from 6 to 8 a.m. every morning, and that is my 2 hours when I do what I need to do that is just for me. So from 6 to 7, I either meditate or practice ballet. In my apartment here, I have a little workout mirror, and I will practice my ballet in my mirror, which is very handy to have. And then from 7 to 8, I will either do some other type of physical activity, or I'll read a new book. So from 6 to 8 every morning is my time to just invest in me, in the things that I like outside of my business self. I believe in what I call being the designated overcomer. And I think a lot of people who are otherized become designated overcomers. And what I mean is kind of this. I think we've all seen it, right? You might see a David and Goliath story, and you'll see that when Goliath is bothering David, no one says anything. But the minute David throws a rock at Goliath, everybody is a little bit flustered, and they suddenly want to get involved and invested. And this is because as a society, we have been trained that certain people are designated overcomers. If there's somebody who has to overcome some obstacle, it's going to be me, And if I'm not in the room, it's going to be Bobby. And if it's not Bobby, it's going to be Clayton or Prasanna or Jim. And we roll down this kind of hierarchy. And it's very important to make sure that you understand that people will try to assign you in this designated overcomer role, and that you make sure that that's not your role, right? Just because you invite me to the party, I don't have to show up. And so make sure you take that time for you where you clear your mind and you focus on what's for you. And as I enter my business day, I make sure that I am grounded in who I am. And that way I have a really good shell that protects me and my core. I'll throw it over to Bobby and see how you might answer that.
I love that. I mean, the 6 to 8 rule, I typically do mine at nighttime, because 6 to 8, I have a small child. It's a madhouse from 6 to 8. What I would suggest to founders that have a family, that have small children or children, where you have to balance your life, your startup, which is another baby, and then your household, is find creative ways to take care of you. So, for example, my daughter has swimming 2 days a week, and I drop her off and I go for a walk. I don't sit in the car. I don't go see her swim because she's going to get distracted. She's not going to progress. I go, that's my time. That's my 45 minutes. And when she's in theater, I do the same philosophy. So for me, self-care is a lot of like making time for activity, physical activity, as well as I want to be alone, so I clear my mind. Because in the mad dash of life and work, you sometimes forget to just focus on you. So I try to find very creative ways to take 30 to 45 minutes to do that.
I can hop in next and let Michael come back in. For me, mornings are just hustle bustle. It continuously goes on. So I used to try and do meditation like Angel, but now I don't get time. But what I'm trying to do is around 5, 6 o'clock, I try to shut off and take my dog, and with my wife, we go for a walk, like a long walk around this neighborhood, or we'll go to some other neighborhood, just keep walking for a long time and chatting, just getting outside in the sun. That is something which we do. And in the night, I try to shut off by 12:30, so that like for half an hour, I'm not doing much. And then like I go to bed at 1. So I'll like for that half an hour, I try to just not look at my phone, not look at my laptop, and just plan for the next day. So that's one thing. So the other one is there are lots of ups and downs in the day of a startup. Someday you get some customer pays, you're like, hi, and then something breaks, or the investor says no, or something goes wrong, a team member is leaving. So there are a lot of lows. So that creates a lot of ups and downs. So a lot of adrenaline rush and also complete down. So I have tried to learn to be more calm and constant at almost all the time now. That even like just few days back, my co-founders like, hey, we got so much money from a particular angel investor. I'm like, okay. But maybe like 2 months back, it was like, oh yes. So now I'm much more calm. So that helps. Like even if something is going bad with the customer, I am on the same calm level now. So somehow that has helped keeping the ups and downs at a more constant level. So that has helped.
Oh, you guys.
I really like that persona. I really like it.
See, okay. So you guys are talking about like nice, meditation and all that stuff. So I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old, all boys.
You get that busy, Jim. Okay, that's your fault.
But see, that's the thing, right? It's like my thing is the things that they find enjoyable, I find enjoyable, right? So, my 8-year-old, he likes writing software. So like today we were going over cryptocurrency, right? So it's a way for me to stop thinking about parking, but at the same time, it gets me to focus on my family. And as far as exercise is concerned, it's like I see people going for like these long jogs and walks and stuff like that. For me, it's been sprinting because you can't sprint for that long. So it's like you work out for maybe 10 minutes tops and you're done. But yeah, I mean, it works great. It'll really, if as long as you have some basic the form, you just won't get injured, and you just take that 10-15 minutes and you're just like, okay, I'm done for the day, right? But yeah, it's really just as far as like exercise, that's it. Eating properly, drinking plenty of water, sleeping a good amount, right? Let your body know, like your body lets you know when it's tired. Rest, and then find things that you enjoy. I just happen to enjoy all them boys, so lucky me.
I want to jump back in real quick, Mike. I know you're about to get to your spew, but I did forget something that I feel is so important. Mental health care, all right, especially as a Black woman, as a Black immigrant woman, who's also a military veteran. Mental health care, is so important. So whether it's exercise, meditating, I do have a therapist, and I speak to my therapist frequently, and I love it because they get paid to just listen to me complain. Your friends aren't going to tolerate that. No one likes to hear you complain, except your therapist, because they get paid. And so I would definitely recommend, if you are feeling stressed and you don't have, it can be hard as a founder of color. Even here, we're spread out, right? We're not on the same city. We're not like right next to each other to come and lean on each other's shoulders. So I did want to kind of stress the importance of making sure, if you're able to, find therapy. There are also free ways in every state. If you don't know how to reach it, you can reach out to me. I will help you find a way. I'm a big advocate for mental health. And so, yes. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. As an underrepresented founder, your job, literally your occupation, is to figure out the unknown. So that feeling of, who else understands how I feel, who else can I talk to, is normal. It's part of the journey. So something I learned from a mentor recently was create an inner circle, a group of people you can trust, that you can hold yourself accountable to feeling vulnerable. It can be your family. I was advised, don't allow it to be people in the company. Kind of take that step away so you can have that reset, the 100% reset, and set up a time, whether it's once a month, once every 2 weeks, to be able to check in on very specific things. How's my mental health status? How's my physical health? How are my relationships with other people? you know, just on that point of figuring out the unknown, you will have, you know, code that breaks and you have to spend 2 weeks away from everyone making sure this works. You'll have a pitch presentation and you need to completely redesign your deck. So it'll require you to just go in your back cave and figure it out. But having those people that you feel comfortable sharing everything with and letting them and listening to how they respond to it, how they think about it, is really important. Something I've heard as well is this concept of social media. They say as a founder, you should be able to use social media as a way to not only talk about your life, but your business. So while you're creating a life through social media and these representations that show who you are, always know that there's a space that you can disconnect from. Just as Prasanna mentioned, take that 30 an hour away from that whole world and just know who you are. Meditation, reading, and inner circle.
Thank you, Michael. I took a lot from all you guys. I really do appreciate talking about the human side of all that you guys do. So I want to thank you guys so much for talking about it. Let's move on to the next question. Is one moment. Oh, what resources are available now that people are not using enough? And be more specific, is there a source of information or free or low-cost mentorship that entrepreneurs or startup founders can look into right now? Oh, I'm sorry. Michael, go ahead and please, if you can answer that.
Yes. In terms of resources, Eventbrite and Meetup, especially over COVID. Pre-COVID, that was my place that was bookmarked. As an early founder, you want to go to everything, be in the mix, learn what's what, especially in your space, whether it's geographic or industry-wide. I think over COVID, people have stepped away, you know, thinking that Eventbrite and Meetup, those have to be in person, so they may not be doing as well. A great advice for founders is every week you should type in on meetup.com, eventbrite.com, anything that has to do in your space. If you're in the AI space, AI meetups. If you're in the food tech space, food tech meetups and pitch competitions. I really think there is a lack of a distinguished place that you can find resources, ways to meet people using these simple crowd making, you know, event tools can be a great way to meet those people and further your business.
Thank you. Bobby, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, I would say like every ecosystem, startup ecosystem has first there's startup ecosystems in most major cities and even like secondary smaller cities. Figure out who they are, who are the leaders, what events they're having. During COVID, some of them were having virtual sessions, virtual meetups. So figure out, like, I think there are so many resources with these startup ecosystems, whether there's pitch nights, free training, even some cities have small business centers. And I think people oftentimes forget that small business centers, their mentors are very amazing and they come from various different backgrounds. Even like, you know, as a tech founder, I would leverage some of those resources for helping me with marketing, helping me with sales. There's a plethora of resources that are available that I think sometimes we tend to overlook, especially around the ecosystems and the small business community.
Thank you. Jim, would you like to chime in?
Sure. So mine's a little bit different. So, I mean, yes, like meetups and all that good stuff is really important. But I would say like YouTube and no code utilities, because like being able to build is paramount, right? I mean, I'm in parking. COVID happened, you know, like 95% of everyone's revenue went away was parking revenue. I mean, like as far as parking was concerned, like cities were losing money, businesses were losing money, and we just had time to build, right? And is that what's got us through COVID and stronger than we were when we went into COVID? So I think the idea of building is not stressed enough, especially like with non-technical founders. It's just, let me go find somebody who can build this for me. No, just build stuff yourself. Learn how to build stuff yourself. I realize that's difficult, but days turn to weeks, weeks turns to months, months turns to years. Next thing you know, you'll be the pro at building stuff. So I just figured I'd take it from a different perspective.
Thanks, Jim. I think that's exactly where even I was going to go at. Just today morning, I was giving a presentation on minimum viable product, and I had a slide deck over there with what are the different tools available today to build products from non-technical founders. There is no code tool. There are all these other integrations which are available, and most people don't make use of it. And Jim, you're exactly right. Even I was in that mindset before that. I wanted to find a technical co-founder who can actually build the whole system. Even though I'm technical, I wanted someone else to build the whole system. But then that whole mentality changes when you're like, there are customers out there who want this product. If I don't build this, someone else is going to build it. So just go out there. There's so many resources out there where you can just start building things on your own. And then you can either hire someone on Upwork or find a technical co-founder later on. So definitely, I don't think people make enough use of the tools out there. That's the first one. And I echo with everyone else on community. So I'm part of this community called On Deck. It's a founder community, and it's a very helpful community. We go there, we ask each other, what tool do you use for CRM? Or can someone provide me an introduction to this particular VC? Or can someone review my pitch deck? And people hop in to go and help each other. It's a very helpful committee. The founder committee, somehow it is very tightly knit because everyone knows each other's problem. So getting into those communities is something which most people don't make use of. They are in their own shell, in their own home, working on their own product. They should actually reach out to their communities and build the community. So these two, I would say, is pretty important. Just go build on your own, go find a community which can help you out.
Yeah, kind of same, kind of piggybacking a little bit on what Prasanna was saying. Maybe I'm less of the, learn the hardcore tech, maybe because I'm a consultant who it's my job. I think it really depends on the space, right? So for me, I'm not a hardcore tech person. I'm the intermediary between the business and the tech teams. And in my observation, the tech teams have too much to worry about with the tech part to focus on the business and the process optimization and solutioning part. And so this is where, as Prasanna was saying, find a network of people, of trusted advisors. I think the resource that a lot of people are missing in business is vulnerability. We have to be vulnerable enough to trust someone to help us realize our dream. And it can be difficult when you're a person of color because we've come from communities that traditionally have been disadvantaged, and to where it can be a quite tumultuous community that we have to, endure. And so trust is something that might come harder for a person who is not in a very privileged position. And so I think that is one resource that we definitely need to have more of. And I think we're getting more of. It's one of the things that the internet is connecting us and seeing, hey, there are other people out there just like me who want to help me realize the same dreams. So that's a great thing. The other thing I would say is, I think a lot of people don't look to their local governments, right? So I get funding from the federal government, right? I have 3 SBA mentors who I meet with 3 times a week because I pay taxes. And if it's one thing you appreciate as an immigrant in this country, it is getting the value for the taxes that you pay. And, the Small Business Association, the Women's Center here in New York City, I can get a SBA advisor from the city. I can get a state advisor, and then I can get a federal advisor. As a Black woman, I can get a special advisor that focuses in Black women entrepreneurship. And so I would encourage everybody to look to your local city council, your local senator, who usually will have the business connections there, and get into your chambers, right? There are a lot of chambers of commerce that people are not utilizing because we feel so left out. But right now, they are in a crunch for people like us. So look to your local elected officials, go into your chambers of commerce, and I think you'll be able to get a lot of guidance and funding there as well.
And Angel, I just wanted to say you are absolutely correct. Yes, we're writing that down. But Angel, yes, business side is very important. I thought when first time I heard of EBITDA, I thought that somebody was stuttering.
It matters, you know, it matters.
Thank you all for your insightful answers. I'm actually going to go to the chat right now and ask you questions from the audience. Now, anyone, feel free to jump in for this question. What is the role of incubators or accelerators in bridging the funding gap for tech startups? Please, anyone can go first.
Would you also type the question out, Clayton?
Oh, so sorry. You guys all.
So I can go first on that question. One of my startups, we actually went through an accelerator program. I think accelerator and incubators are so important. It's finding the right one that has a strong mentor network and VCs and capital sources and access to potential customers. So we went through the accelerator, got some really good mentorship. This particular accelerator didn't have a strong VC or like how are we going to raise money type of connections. So we had to find creative ways to get that funding, else, figure out how we're going to get that funding for this particular company. We ended up stopping that organization. But what I've seen also a trend, and I would love to hear this group's feedback on, is I think accelerators and incubators are good. But when I see founders jump from accelerator to accelerator to accelerator to accelerator, I think it becomes an overkill because you're getting that first accelerator should give you that leg up. And there's not, when I see that, it feels like maybe you're just getting that 50,000, 50,000, 50,000, but you're spending so much time and chasing after small dollar amounts that you're forgetting the bigger vision. I would highly recommend, if you've never done a startup, to look at those ecosystems, but make sure that they have the right mentor network, VC network, and can give you access to customers. Not a guarantee, but an opportunity.
Right. So after you get done with an accelerator, you should be accelerated. So, I mean, just underscoring what you just said, I think that, an accelerator is designed to get you the entrepreneurship mindset. One of the things that you really need to understand is the accelerator that you're applying to. What did they do? Like, if you're going to be working with EIRs or anything like that, if they're like, hey, I built a B2B company and this, hey, I'm building a B2B company. Well, I got a 9-figure exit. Okay. Okay. Well, you're going to tell me how to do that? All right, cool. Join. Right. If they're just like, oh, okay, it's a political thing, or, like they never did anything and they're going to give you $50,000. Like, no, that you have way too much stuff to do than to deal with that. I mean, like, there was one person who was trying to get me to go into an accelerator. And I was like, I could literally, not like literally go get a job, make more money than they would have invested in the company. I was like, what's the point of that? So, you need to actually find good accelerators. And then remember, the point of your business is not to get into accelerators, kind of like what Bobby was saying, is to create a big business. So don't get lost in it. Just keep building, keep growing. And eventually, if it's time for you to be an accelerator, you go into an accelerator. If somebody wants to invest, then you get that money.
To add to that, let's say you apply to all these Y Combinator, Axle Price, and what Alchemist, a bunch of these accelerators are there, and you're not able to get in. And figure out why you applied. If you applied those places to get more customers, because Y Combinator has a lot of portfolio companies, you actually don't need to join Y Combinator to figure out the portfolio companies. You can go to YC today, figure out all the portfolio companies, start hitting them. Hey, a fellow founder here doing this, do you want to try my product and give me some feedback? Or do you want to try my product? I have 3 other customers using this and they're finding it valuable. So if your goal is to just go and get these customers, you don't need an accelerator. If your goal is to get more funding, definitely the accelerators like Y Combinator, maybe Price, Techstars will help because they immediately bump up your valuation. If your company is valued at, let's say, 10 million today, the time in another 3 months when you're coming out of accelerator, just because you went through YC or Techstars, your valuation could be 15 to 20 million. So that's something which helps. But this can also be created if you know if you know how to do it. Like you'll have to create FOMO with the investors to do it. So that's a different story. So if you're able to get into an really good accelerator, well and good. But if not, don't worry. There are still a lot of options. People don't go through accelerators to do things. There are ways to get customers, way to get investors. So you're still fine. I'll let Michael come in.
So,
and super quick. Yeah, sorry. So I actually went through Y Combinator, and it's like when people reach out to me and they're like, I mean, even it's like, hey, can you look at my YC application? I say yes, right? So if you reach out to me and you're just like, hey, fellow founder here, yes, we will absolutely respond, just as long as you don't come off like a jerk, right? Just say like, look, I need help. It's like, what a coincidence. I need help too, right? And you just have a conversation. Just treat people like human beings.
Thank you. Please, once again, our panelists sharing some amazing tips. Michael's about to share his hand. So please make sure you hashtag MIW21. MIW21. Michael.
Exciting. Sorry, it cut out. Wanted to add, or at least I can jump in and kind of close out that concept. The biggest thing I hear founders ask is, again, that question, incubator, accelerator. They're both opportunities for us. Know that an incubator is usually 9 times out of 10 a physical space. So if you just need a desk, a place, a physical place to be able to focus on your idea and grow, incubators are great at that. Accelerators, as mentioned, is to take you from point A to point Z. Something I see a lot of founders don't recognize, even we messed up on this, is an accelerator's goal is for you to explain exactly what you don't know. Explain exactly what you need help with. Usually with investors, you want to explain how capital is going to be able to help get you from point A to point B. But accelerators, you want to be a lot more vulnerable in saying, here's where we want to grow, but here are the wins that we have already. Know this as well. An incubator is great at you bumping into an investor that you can pitch to. An accelerator's goal is to ensure that when you do pitch, you have a very clear process and path to get funding. So know that an incubator has that serendipity, that physical space, but an accelerator is going to make sure that you can excel when opportunity meets preparation.
Growth. Growth.
Amazing. I see a really great question here. Sequentially, what is the order of completion for necessary tasks considered essential to the progress of your company that optimizes success? So where do you prioritize tasks, deliverables, meetings, agendas when you're thinking about the success of your organization? I think I can definitely say it's really industry specific. A thing that I learned, especially in the SaaS space, is it's really great to know where you want to be 5 years down the line, to think very big picture about what's the effect your scalable software will have, and then work backwards. If you know that you're building a solution where data is the biggest driver of success, figure out ways at an early level to build partnerships, to build ways where this is very important again for tech founders. It's fine. It is perfectly fine if it is $0 for the first 3 months. Make it very clear that this is free for an X amount of time, because the data you'll get will be so much more beneficial to your case studies and your customer traction. So thinking of MindStand, we know we want to be the gold standard in addressing workplace culture. So creating case studies, use cases of how we do so is really important. So our goal is show the product from a focus group perspective, iterate, bring pilots in, show it to the next group of focus groups, and have them be almost this cohort of potential buyers. I'd love to hear from each of you here in your successful business. How have you kind of said, this is step 1, this is step 20, and here's what success looks like down the line?
Well, okay, I think it might be a little bit easier for me because I have a consulting business, so I might be cheating a little bit here. I might have a little bit of experience kind of doing this. So for me, it was an easier translation because I just took my industry and consulting skills to clients that were already kind of there. And so for me, it's a general process, right? Process mapping, and just I think this is something you have to do personally too, right? When you're a co-founder, it's not a business plan so much, right? It's not as you wouldn't just pull up, Microsoft project and kind of tie it in because it's so personal. It's kind of your baby. And so I think it's essentially like asking another parent, like, what type of clothes do you put on your kid, right? It's like, hey, kind of all depends on where we're at and what our line of business is and what our goals and targets are. I think the most important thing in charting your own trajectory and your own, current state to future state is having trusted advisors who you can lean on, who can tell you, hey, do you actually have a history of prior performance that can back this idea that you want? And if you don't, how do we get that for you? And making sure that you, at the very least, have some type of goalpost, set audacious goals, and have some goalposts with people in your specific ecosystem, in your environment, whether that's a location, whether that's a certain line of business or an area of technology. Have people that you can bounce these ideas off of and give you back the feedback altruistically to tell you, maybe 3 months for a fully fledged MVP that has a global rollout is not going to work. Maybe we need to scale it back. And so I think once you are able to in tune kind of good advice, then you'll be able to build your plan. I think oftentimes people fall into this thought pattern of there's some type of recipe. You're making a bruschetta chicken. How many potatoes did you put in? And it's like, yes. And it's so hard, right? Because it really is just making sausage. And so I think the part that's the real answer that people don't want to hear is that you'll really have to do that work for yourself and judge on your core resources, and how accurate that timeline is going to be is really going to depend on how much you are putting into your business.
I think piggybacking to what Angel is saying is also being in tune to your customer. knowing that voice of your customer. So everything from our company perspective is driven by, our customer delivering that wow. We've scaled from, there was 3 founders in 2018 to now we've got over 60 people in our company. So now we have to think about the voice of the customer, but also we have to do some really intense resource planning, resource training, but it's all centered around the voice of the customer. What we've learned in the last few years is if we don't focus on the customer, you're going to build something that nobody's going to use.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like Angel's so articulate. I'm just like, yeah, I got a lot of hair and it's always on fire. Run that way. But yeah, it's like you look and you say, hey, these are the things I have. These are my raw materials. And, no one has the same raw materials. So it's like, this is where I'm lacking. I need to go and focus on this. This is where I'm doing very well, point everybody, look how well we're doing, right? So yeah, you guys, there's really nothing that I can add that actually sounds smart. So you guys got it.
Bobby, you said it so well. If you build something without thinking about the customer, no one will use it. That is very real. When you think about that and kind of unpack it, please, founders here, if you are at a networking event, if you're showing something, a product of what you have, and you notice there's someone here that just they're jumping out of their skin, maybe they can't be an employee, they can't be a co-founder, but they just want to help, they want to talk to you about it, do not lose contact with them. Those will be the people that give you, that information that you need right before deploying the platform. Or those are the people who would love to see test emails, test products, test material, all in line with, as you traverse this path, as you create, these next iterations, these milestones, keep a great group of people who are genuine around their interest in the problem close to heart. And Clayton, there's another question. Would love for you to pose it. I can answer and love to bring Prasanna back.
Yes, please go ahead and answer, Michael. I'm having some technical difficulties, so I want to make sure everyone can hear me a bit more clearly. You can answer from the chat.
Absolutely. So I think kind of these questions fall in line. This idea of, what do you think tech startup founders and co-founders need to be prepared to do to stand out for investors? As well as this, what industries do you think are in need of disruption that a potential startup could address? Maybe there's an opportunity for a twofer. But preparation, when you have co-founders, Mindstand, we are 3 co-founders. We've learned, this took a lot of help and coaching. We can explain Mindstand without the pitch deck, and it can work just as well as with the pitch deck. This is some game I'm going to give you guys. The best way we did it is we started a round robin of what are our personal motivations to Mindstand. After that round, someone may ask questions so we can answer it as you see. The next is, what's the story of Mindstand? So what's the story of your startup? How did it come to be? What validation did you have? Why is this a business? And then the third is more of traction/product. What is this product you've created? What's the traction that you have towards here? That format we've created has been so helpful in taking the questions more into our court. Because as you all know, as underrepresented founders, they're waiting. They're waiting for that word, that phrase, that idea, that ask that you have that, they just want to say, no, this isn't the right thing to do, or why did you think about it this way? By starting at such a personal level and then taking it down to the traction, the exciting pieces of your company, you're going to create, that FOMO that people are going to want to learn more about.
Good old fear of missing out.
always helps.
I know we're running short on time, so I'll just piggyback on that. As far as, what do we need to do to prepare to stand out? I probably don't have much more to add on there. I'm a flamboyant person, so naturally I stand out. Probably tailoring how much I stand out is more my thing and reeling it back. So I'll leave that for other people to address. As far as what industries are in need of disruption, I would absolutely say healthcare. There's no way anybody cannot think healthcare right now is definitely in need of disruption. And I think another industry that people don't realize is kind of my vertical, finance. And so, like, particularly in banking, I mean, banks are doing multi-million business-to-business trades, right? Sending faxes on the back end, right? And I don't think people realize how dinosaurish a lot of these back end things are. I mean, even to, Jim talking about the parking meters, people don't understand how outdated the tech on these systems are that are from the 70s. And so in those spaces, definitely lots of innovation, healthcare, a lot of DE&I work, of course, and finance. I'll pass it on to whoever's willing to take it next.
I think finance is like the whole fintech wave. Then came insurtech, then came prop tech, and now everything is a tech. But I think banking, where banking's at, insurance is like where it's like 10, like it's years dated. And then even in the insurance sector, you've got property and casualty, which is ahead of life and health. That's where I focus on. So I think, when you look at the financial sector as a whole, that is, people have been in it, but there's so much good startup activity, good funding activity. More players need to come in. And one comment I would say is we cannot forget about DeFi and crypto. And that space is such an early space that we need to figure out how to create these use cases with what is being created in the crypto world, with DeFi world, and marry it to healthcare, marry it to finance, marry it to insurance, to other industries. I think that's where the future is going.
Would definitely say a lot of government related things, be it the driver's license, why should there be such a huge queue, or even immigration. Like, I am here on a visa and so many green cards are wasted every year. Why is there such a backlog? You can just use different types of verification to, so that's one industry. If it's disrupted, it would be great for everyone. There's a lot of opportunity there. We can use blockchain to do verifications and a lot more things. Unluckily, no one's tackling that, or maybe people are tackling and there is just bureaucracy out there. So that is one industry. The other way to think about is, think of all the workplaces where someone is using a Google Sheet to do things. All of them can be disrupted. The moment they're using Google Sheet to just keep track of multiple things, there can be an app for it. So go for those. I would say those are a lot helpful for general users, and people will buy those.
Yeah, so I got a minute left. If it annoys you, build a product to fix it. I got a wife and 5 kids. There's no chance of me having change in my pockets. Every time I pull up to a parking meter, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to get a parking ticket. Look at me. I got a parking startup. So, I mean, fix things that ruin your day. And if nobody else uses it, at least you'll have something that makes you happy.
Cheers.
But yeah, actually, super quick. Yeah. Ditto to what everybody else said. They all had right answers too.
And I wanted to thank everybody. I know we're 1 minute, but thank you all. I really appreciated you all sharing your insights. Thanks to Nesby and MIW for hosting us.
That wraps up this episode of the Disruptive Podcast by Minority Innovation Weekend. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Check us out online at www.minorityinnovationweekend.org and connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.